Hi YouTube, and welcome to my video review for Voyager Bulkhead from Transformers Prime. In this video I'm going to review both the RID and the first edition mold. I have the RID on the left and the first edition on the right. Now before I get into the meat of this review, I'd just like to make a quick note on where I got the first edition mold. I got them from Big Bad Toy Store. Paid $25 for them. I actually got them with first edition Prime mold. Paid $50 for the pair, so obviously it translates to $25 each. From what I understand, you can also maybe be able to find them in Toys R Us. If you're going to get them, I recommend you get them soon because these guys are kind of a limited release. Before Hasbro decided to reissue them, I know they were going for maybe up to as much as $90 online, which is obviously a pretty big difference from $25. So just something to keep in mind if you do want to get the first edition mold. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into the meat of the review. Looking at these guys, you can tell they are completely different molds, but they do look pretty similar in vehicle mode. Much more similar than, honestly, I felt the two Prime molds looked. There's a lot more similarity in these vehicle modes. But when I do get to robot mode, they do look significantly different. But I do feel in robot mode they are a lot more similar than what Prime was. I like both of these molds a lot, actually. It's hard to pick a favorite between these two in vehicle mode. Maybe I think I slightly like the first edition a little bit better, but it's not by a lot. I mean, I really like the way the RID mold looks in vehicle mode too. I think honestly they did a great job with both of these molds in vehicle mode. I'm going to go ahead and focus on the RID mold and show that to you real quick first. Here's the front. Here's the side. Here's the back. There's the top. And just in case you want to see it, there's the bottom. It rolls well, no problem rolling. It's a good looking mold. I really dig them. You know, I don't have too many complaints about this guy. You know, he's pretty nifty. I even like. I'll show you what he looks like with his weapons mounted on him in this mode. Now, when I mount both his weapons on him, I'll admit it looks kind of stupid, you know, especially with this big honking thing. And I'll get more into that when I get into the robot mode. But he actually has two pieces, and the way I like to display him in vehicle mode is with just one of his weapons attached to him. This black thing. Put that on there. Kind of looks like he has a gun on his roof. Actually, it's not a bad look. I mean, it's pretty cool, or maybe it has a searchlight, something. Something that they could actually be functional in this mode. And you know, like I said, I really do like the way this looks. I got no issues with its appearance in general. Maybe the first edition is slightly better because it's a little bit more show accurate, has a few more details, but overall I really do like the way the RID one looks. I'll go ahead and focus in on the first edition now. Here's the front of them. Here's the side. Here's the back. Here's the top, and here's the bottom. He rolls real well, just like the RID version. One thing I do like about him, there's better detailing in the tail lights. As you can see, the RID, the tail lights don't go around on the side, but they do on the first edition. I like that. The roof is slightly more realistic, I guess, because it doesn't have the big pop-up thing. But like I said, I do like the way that gun-looking thing mounts, you know, on the RID set. Negates that a little bit. It has clear windows on the side. The RID doesn't have that, but it's not, to me, a huge deal, one way or the other. I'm going to go ahead and put the weapon mount on the first edition, because he just has this wrecking ball as the weapon he comes with. And that looks pretty neat. It looks like he's maybe transporting some sort of equipment, you know, depending on how destructive you want to. Maybe it's a bomb or maybe some sort of a sensor. Who the heck knows? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put these guys next to each other And let me just move him out here better into frame a little bit. As you can see, the first edition mold is a larger mold. He's definitely, let me just do that. He's longer, he's taller, and he's wider. But I mean, that's, like I said, that's kind of been par for the course on these first editions. You know, yeah, there's definitely a size difference between these two guys, but you know, whatever. That's just how it is. I'd rate both of these guys pretty highly in their alt modes. Almost close to equal, but I guess I will give the slight edge to the first edition. But it's not a huge difference. So anyway, I will be back in a flash with robot modes with these guys. Hi YouTube, and welcome back to part 2 of my review. I got these guys in robot mode, and again on the left I have the RID version, and on the right I have the first edition. Looking at these guys, you can obviously tell they're completely different molds, just like you could in vehicle mode, but I think in robot mode they look much more different from each other than they did in vehicle mode. I thought the two vehicle modes were pretty similar, but in robot mode they are a lot more different from each other. I do like the way both of these guys look, however. I think they both are good-looking figures, no doubt about it. I will have to, of course, unfortunately, again, give the slight nod to the first edition because he is much more show-accurate. He's bulkier. He's just, to me, a somewhat cooler-looking figure. But I don't think the RID one looks bad, again, by any means. I do find the RID one better-looking, though, than the RID Optimus Prime. I would give maybe the this RID Bulkhead, I'd give him an 8 instead of a 7 like I gave Prime. And first edition in robot mode, I'm going to have to give him maybe a 9.5. I mean, he is a great mold, no doubt about it. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and focus in on the RID one first, and then I'll go over the first edition. So I'll set him off to the side. Here's the front of him. Let's go ahead and turn them around for you. There's the side. There's the back. Oh, and before I forget, there was one thing I forgot to mention. As you can see, the height between the first edition and the RID was pretty much identical. But the main difference in size is, of course, the bulk. But that's just something quick I wanted to cover. On this one, though, the head mold, they look similar, but they're not identical like they were on Prime. One of the biggest differences is, I'm going to go ahead and maybe zoom in on his face a little bit here. He's got actually a movable mouth, and first edition does not have that. I think that's actually a really neat touch. His head it can spin around. Doesn't really go up and down too much, but spins all the way around without an issue. It's pretty cool. As far as his articulation goes, he doesn't have too much going on at the foot level, just because of the way the figure is designed. Really, you can just say he has no articulation in the actual foot. Knee, he bends some. Legs on a ball joint, so goes, you know, pretty much all the way around. Goes forward and backward. Left and right, you know, pretty standard there. On his arm, in theory, it can do 360 around, but the way the mold is makes it tough for it to go all the way around. But it is possible if you really want to finagle with it. He's got rotation at this part of the arm, there, upper piece. Of course, his elbow bends. His hand goes in and out some. I mean, that basically covers his articulation. His accessories, he's got, again, the two that I showed you in vehicle mode. He has his little battering ram thing, and you got two options as far as how you deploy that thing. You can put it on his arm, have it look like that. You can also hold it like a gun if you want him to. And then, of course, there's this thing. And this is my main problem with the RID Voyagers in the Prime line. Their weapons tend to be a little goofy, but I mean, this looks like it's a piece of his vehicle mode for some reason. But anyway, you do this, and it does do something that's kind of fun. You do this, and you see that it spins and it lights up. I mean, that's kind of neat, but I mean, obviously, this thing looks pretty ridiculous overall. I mean, it's a semi-neat gimmick, I guess, but the overall appearance of this thing, I think, detracts from that. But, you know, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the first edition now. There's the front of them. I'll go ahead and turn them around for you. And as you can see, he is really show accurate in his appearance. I really love the way this guy looks, no doubt about it. He is a great looking figure. His articulation is pretty similar to the RID one. Really not much going on in the foot. And he somewhat bends at the knee. He sort of bends at the knee. You know, I think it's just because of the way his legs are stubby. That's why his articulation isn't the greatest on his legs. Ball joint again, you know, front, back. Sounds kind of like there's a little bit of ratcheting action going on in there. Basically, that's what he's got going on in his legs. Technically induced, like I said, all the way around. Shoulder. He's got some rotation here. Upper arm. Elbow bends. Hands move. And he's got his head go. Well, it can't quite go all the way around, but it does have some range. You know, his articulation, it's okay. I mean, you can get him in some pretty neat poses. It's not bad. It's not as good as the Prime, Optimus Prime, but I think that's just because the way his character is, the way this mold is designed. I don't think they're really trying to take shortcuts. It's just kind of a trade-off they had to make him look the way he does. Anyway, now as far as his weapon goes in this mode, you know, his hand basically flip around just like that, and you got that little peg hole there, and you take his energon mace, ball, whatever you want to call it, and you can put it on him. It looks pretty neat. And then, of course, this little whole thing can sort of act as his cannon that he has on the show. It's not the most impressive thing ever, but, I mean, it's something if you want to act like that's his cannon, I suppose. Or if you want to, you know, give him some other... I mean, obviously his hand will fit most standard Transformers weapons. If you want to arm him with something else, you can certainly do that. Overall, though, great figure. Bear with me here, guys. And I'm going to go ahead and conclude the review now. And pretty much, I'm going to have a pretty similar verdict as I did on the Optimus Prime molds. If you only get one, get the first edition. If you want to get both. I mean, what I tend to do with mine is I'll probably have the first edition in robot mode and the RID and vehicle mode next to them on my display shelf. But if you only get one, get the first edition. If you can't find the first edition, can't get the first edition, the RID one is fine. It's definitely not a bad mold. And if that's the only one you have, it's not a big deal. So anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say for this guy. I hope you enjoyed watching my review, and I will see you guys next time.